Just think. One is the Constitution. What else?
Statute of law.
Statute of laws is all laws.
English law? The English law?
Or common.
English
Okay,
common law?
so I have here English common law.
Case law.
And we'll come back to that. What else?
Bills.
Bills? What are bills? We'll come back to that later.
Legislation?
Legislation? Yes, he said legislation, but what legislation?
Only legislation.
Custom.
Crime and subsidiary.
International law. No?
Yes.
Equity.
Criminal.
Have that up there already.
Equity.
He said laws, legislation is not in the book. What legislation governs the legal system? Besides all of this, for this to function,
What's the bottom?
Parliament does what? What's the role of Parliament?
The class.
They pass.
Legislation.
Right. Just how banks have their legislative framework, so does the judiciary.
So what's our role of parliament? No. The class.
They have their act that governs what they do. Yes. No. I want you to think.
You write it down.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
It's now.
It's not
It's not in entirety, but it's there.
It there in a different sense.
Yes.
I read it today.
It's there. But not written that way. And that's just how the exam questions come. They're not verbatim.
On
It's there. It's there. We got it? We are on page 18. We are on page 18. But if you read the whole chapter, they all come together. Okay.
Could you go over this again? So,
When we speak about what's the legal system in the Bahamas, you all gave me a lot of factors that determine how law is made. That's these things around here. But our legal system is based on the judiciary. And the judiciary is ruled by their own laws. This gives them their duties, what they're supposed to do.
okay.
And the role of the judiciary is to do what?
Provide structure.
No. Parliament passes law. The role of the judiciary is to interpret the law. That's their role. They interpret the law. So, when we say that the Bahamas follows English common law or case law, why do we say that?
because they base their law. We make judgments off of past cases, cases that have already been settled impartially by judges in the highest courts, which is in England, which is the Privy Council.
Okay. But why do we do that?
Because you're a
Because we were once a
Yeah.
colony,
British.
British colony. And that's why we are part of the
English common law. The Commonwealth.
yeah, we're part of the Commonwealth of Nations. Yes. So when we talk about laws, there are different types of laws. And I know you all know many. So there are three primary types of laws. What?
She said,
The criminal law.
You paying for?
it's not a law.
Public.
Right.
What's a public law?
What deal with,
The law relations between
Yeah.
individuals and the state.
yeah, that is everybody as a whole.
Mhm. So give me an example of a public law. Think.
No jaywalking,
No 25.
no jaywalking.
That's a law.
Not
Road-
really.
road
Oh,
traffic.
right, okay.
Road traffic.
No
There we go.
No
See?
driving.
You gave me an,
What'd you say just now?
I said road
you,
traffic.
right, you have to give the actual act.
You mean road traffic?
Right.
Traffic
You say no jaywalking. But even if we had it, it would fall under the Road Traffic Act.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Okay, labor. Labor.
We have an act called labor.
No, I mean, you know what
The
I
labor
mean.
laws act?
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Workforce.
You put it in the group and you call it labor
Labor.
legislation. But that is not the name of the act.
Floyd, oh, yeah.
You have to know what they are. This is why people don't know their rights.
Employment act, is what everybody need to know.
Because you don't know the legislation. Not saying that you know how to interpret it.
Yeah.
You need to know what it
Exactly
is.
what it is.
You need to know what's the law that governs what you do as a citizen.
Yeah.
Central bank act?
What I have to do?
Maybe we should listen our part.
Public, no, we talk about
We're talking
public,
about
public now.
laws.
We still there. okay.
Yeah, we still there. Anything else? You know, when you apply for licenses, any kind of license, whether it's a liquor license or jet ski license, who we dealing with? The public, right? All that fall here under administrative law, because the government then plays the role as an administrator, and they can be sued. If you didn't know. So if you apply, that is not true. If you apply for a license and it is denied, and you have grounds to think that the government took into consideration things that they could not, or you had an expectation that you were getting your license based upon what they said, you can sue the government. People do it all around the world,
And when in
but
the
again,
Bahamas,
huh?
and when in the Bahamas, like sue the government here. And then,
Yeah,
And then.
those
not-
kind of
not
things
5
are not
years
made
later.
public,
Yeah, that's true. They won't.
cause
advertise that.
they all fall under, these are more civil
Yeah.
rather than criminal,
Yeah,
cause they're dealing with people.
yeah, personal.
And a lot of these things are not heard in open courts. But if you don't know the law, you don't know your rights.
So when you must sue the government, right? Who does go to?
The Attorney General office. So then you have private law. What kind of law you think falls under private law?
Organizations.
That's what the books say. Want you to go deeper.
With the relations
Banks.
between
Mhm.
individuals or institutions.
There she go, the Central Bank Act, what else?
Businesses.
That's not a law.
No, what you, I thought we still listen law or what? I thought we listen examples.
Yes, of legislation.
Yeah, Central Bank.
Insurance and commission.
I don't know law.
We just did it last week.
The last one, nah, I should remember that.
Let me see if I can find it.
Insurance Act, the FIU Act, the Data Protection Act, all of these you did last week.
Oh, what you read on the board last week?
The poker, all of them. The FTRA, the FTR, where the lady who says stop writing letters on the board. But she ain't here today. All of them.
The financial transaction.
All of them.
Financial intelligence unit.
Private laws.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You remember now?
I see them now.
All in chapter one.
Most
That's why I said by
of them
chapter.
Most of them chapter one. The data protection, I put them under that.
Yes.
And then, yeah.
You getting it?
Slowly.
Let me take a picture, please. Take a picture, please.
Criminal law. What legislation falls under criminal law? I know you all know this one.
Which legislation?
What would you call the
Capital
penal code?
punishment.
That's it.
The penal code, yeah.
The penal code.
Yeah. How do you know that?
That's all you read.
But
In
you
the-
don't say
No, I
penal
read
code.
I read the book.
I mean, you don't really.
It's not in the book.
It
Is
just-
it in the book?
No.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
The examples are not in the book. That is for you to write down.
I like you, this an all game.
Penal code when y'all learn that?
It's in the paper every day.
They don't say penal code in the
The
paper though.
paper.
Yes, they do.
Paper period.
I just started listening to the news, so we jump straight to the paper.
You need to read the paper. When you're in biking, you need to read,
The paper.
not watch pictures.
What do you say? If I can pull it up on my phone, I'd read it though.
The papers?
Yeah.
It-
Yeah.
Yeah. What you think this is?
People say
That's
law.
common. That's common situations like
Between me and you.
spousal, like
You don't read it.
alright, like
Mhm.
child support. Nope.
It ties close to.
Yeah.
Domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Like regulars.
So what you call child support?
Trying to get to the root.
No, something different.
Custody.
You can do custody.
Custody.
Yeah, but not his own, no.
Nope.
Domestic
You said
abuse.
child support, that's not custody.
What's that? Suit.
No,
Say being sued.
it's called maintenance.
Maintenance.
Oh.
Really?
You have to
Yeah.
watch
I
the
didn't know
words
it was a
you
word for
use.
Yes, it is
Yes.
I thought child support was the word and spousal support is, so that's under maintenance. All the spousal
So what
support,
about-
child support.
What about
maintenance.
like what about like divorces and stuff like that? Would that fall under it?
It depends on what you're applying.
Divorce.
Divorce, really?
Divorce is divorce. It.
Yeah, you can have divorce. What else? Someone said tort. What is tort?
Oh, that's the wrong alarm. Hold on, I think I read it down too. Is it wrong alarm?
Of what that means?
Oh, taught.
What's tort?
I'm getting it now.
Tort? Anybody? You don't know?
Is a
Suppose
wrongful
I-
act.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, contract.
No, contract is something different.
And
What's
it's
a tort?
wrongful act. I like that.
My friend in the back, this is she read the whole chapter. She looking it up on her phone. What's tort?
No, I ain't gonna say that word on my phone now.
Okay.
What's a tort?
Three types of law, which you writing down. So you could just. Is it wrongful act?
What does that mean?
For example, if one person punches one another,
Hmm? If you
I
what?
was just trying to see if
one
it's
person
sorry.
punch one another in the nose. For example, for tort, that's what Google tell me. Right? No?
When you Google,
So,
or squeeze in
the
Google, it's
harmful-
telling you, yeah,
The harmful act.
I said
Contract a long time.
Yeah, that's what it is, but that's not the same as a tort.
Okay. Yeah. Something
So a tort is when you can sue your neighbor if your neighbor has decided to add on to their house and they're blocking your sunshine or your view.
So if you're offended.
Yeah. Or
They
if
sound like petty
If
stuff.
their tree grows
oh
into
no,
your yard.
the tree grow into your yard, you
Yeah,
can
they
sue
do.
them.
That's
They're
like-
not petty.
That's like
You
Oh,
can
vagrant.
go to
okay.
court for that.
That's
And
like
you go to the
vagrant
bank for
payment.
that too.
What?
Vagrant
Compared to
payment.
like
Va-
other stuff
vagrancy
going on.
falls here.
And the peanut?
Yes, what is
Yeah.
vagrancy?
Like if someone's sleeping on the sidewalk.
That's vagrancy.
Yeah.
That's
that would
fall
fall
under
that?
criminal.
Criminal law.
Criminal.
That's a criminal act.
To sleep on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prostitution falls here too.
Penal code, yeah.
Criminal. Theft. Criminal. Burglary.
Alright,
Criminal.
so something like this is if I plant my tree and it grow in your yard.
Yes.
Yes.
And I tell you,
Choose
cut
not
off
to
that part
maintain it.
that's in my yard,
Right.
plus all your juju drop it in my
That's
yard.
So
criminal.
that's petty petty.
No,
then.
that's
No, it's called tort.
You're
Oh.
offending them.
Because for me to cut that down, I have to go and hire someone.
Time and energy.
That person have to come, cut it down, chop it up, carry it off, move all the juju of my yard, and you don't wanna pay for it. So you know what, I'll sue you.
I can't work that out, man. Your juju is my juju.
The roots in your yard.
With the trees in yours, with the leaves in yours.
Yeah,
But
but
the
that's your
roots in your
tree.
yard.
I like that one. No, but that happened before plenty times.
People do it all the time.
Yeah.
I'll cut it down.
The juju is mine.
Or they'll
They do
ask
it
you
on
nicely to
fence.
cut it
Sit
down.
down and you don't do it. You don't
Court
carry
time.
court.
Wow.
Yeah, that happens all the time, right here in the Bahamas.
So where can you find the laws of the Bahamas? Where can you find all of them? So you can say, yeah, I know it on the internet.
Yeah, on the website.
What website?
Bahamas government.
Bahamas.gov.bs.
Yeah, everything
Something
there.
like that?
Bahamas.gov.
I know it got something to do with
Yeah,
BS.
Bahamas.gov.bs.
Yeah, you can find a lot of stuff on that actually.
On what?
On Bahamas.gov.bs.
Yeah, the laws of the Bahamas are there in alphabetical order.
Yep.
So there's no excuse.
Yeah, bring that over.
You can print
That's
all
all
the
it
laws.
Wow. You should see the acts.
Are you
Acts is just
using-
pages.
It's all the way from A all the way to
Just
Z.
Just keep
You
in
don't
mind,
understand.
because
We
when
use
people think,
My wife tell me print what I need to print.
That's why you get a printer at home.
but it's a lot.
You work.
You know what papers it is?
Well, you
It's
get
a
what's
lot.
relevant to you.
Just refer to it. And
Was
write
that
notes
you,
around
lawyer?
it.
Yes.
That's all you can do.
What type of lawyer?
Corporate.
Corporate law.
You know Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
That's my old teacher.
So if you were to get married, which act would you read?
That sounds like a door knock.
Matrimonial.
Yes, the Matrimonial Causes Act.
Tell you all I know there's something.
You know something.
Something laughing at me.
And if I slap you, what act would you go to?
Penal code.
Criminal.
Charlie, get there.
Oh, you mean the law or that?
She said,
Penal code, eh? That's offense, that's battery.
Yeah, you just can't say you're in defense.
You know that one? If I spat on you,
That's battery too.
or if I have HIV, what's that?
No, that's
That should,
criminal.
that should be under penal code too.
No.
That's criminal.
that would be attempted murder.
That's criminal.
Yeah, that's hiding.
Attempted murder.
You looking at
Attempted murder.
it.
That's murder, was I dead?
No, you die right away.
That's a possibility.
You only die when you know you have it, you
Might as well
know.
just shoot me.
Yeah,
Why?
Just shoot me, cause you
life is over. I can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people getting upset.
You only is die when you know you have that. Only when you then start injecting all them foolishness inside you, you start dying.
So if you don't know your arm, you're
True.
straight.
You just get depressed and whatever.
Yeah, the depression will give you.
Men's real.
Criminal law always looks at what's in the mind and the action that was carried out. Always.
So,
See, because
because your reaction is based off of your thought process.
So that's when you can
Yeah.
when the judge will direct you as to whether or not it was intentional or
Right.
not intentional.
Right.
yeah.
When did you
That's why
think of picking up the gun or the hatchet or the stick?
That's why people like to
That's
claim
why
asylum.
you'd get more years for premeditated murder, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why people claim asylum before they like, oh, I gone crazy.
Them white
You
people.
have to be tested.
Them white people can claim insanity, yeah?
They play
And
that.
them lawyers just make it happen.
I'm telling you.
Yes, make it happen.
It's peanut.
A black person try to claim insanity, that's it. That's it. That's it.
So the role of legislation, one, is to regulate and control society, which we all agree on. And to me, to regulate and control society, to me depends on whether or not legislation is kept up to date. Because society changes so rapidly. And a lot of our legislation, if you go online, you see a lot of them are out of date. They've not kept up with society.
So if they wanna go and say update them, they would just have to bring it up in the house?
There's a process.
Yeah, I mean,
In the
it's
chapter.
passed, you know, all that good stuff.
How's the bill passed? Which one you wanna update?
No, I'm just saying,
I'm saying, it depends, which one you wanna update.
oh yeah, let's say matrimonial.
Okay. So who you think would bring that to the house?
I guess who's ever researched it, and then they
Whose
present,
portfolio it falls under?
yeah. So,
Which minister?
I don't know.
So you don't watch the House channel.
No.
So you can
revise.
And
You can revise bills in Parliament, absent of the Senate.
Oh, you
No,
and
it-
Senator's the end.
Yes,
Right.
it is actually at the end.
so, okay, I see that, I know the Senate is vote, but it's vote after the House of Assembly.
Mhm.
So let's say the Senate denies passing the bill. What would then happen? Would the House of Assembly rule and overturn that?
No, it goes back.
It goes
That's
back.
for a reason.
Alright, so both of them have to agree.
But it's for a reason.
But you can't just deny.
You can't just deny it.
You have to have a-
Yeah.
A good reason.
Because when we get to the section in here, you see where it's debated,
Yeah,
And
like 3
amended.
times.
debated, and amended, revised.
Like 3 times.
So a piece of legislation sometimes takes 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It doesn't happen on the snap of a finger. So you look into the page, see if you can find where that is now. So the next reason why
I didn't read it.
the role of legislation is to raise taxation, and you're well aware of that. Because we introduced the VAT legislation in order to raise taxes.
Did they just,
That's the truth. We can raise it again.
Yes. Why are you surprised? What did I say before? It's to meet your fiscal responsibilities.
But when you do,
When you what? What? Speak your mind.
no, don't say that. I don't believe
It
that.
is.
It is.
Like, we can't, I don't think we can survive in that.
And they doing
You have to learn how to survive.
A lot of
And you all
Bahamian,
haven't learned how to
a
survive.
lot of Bahamian business owners.
You're not aggressive enough.
Okay, I believe
But you agree with me now, right? If you're aggressive enough, you can make it happen. You see it coming, partner with someone who could help you make your business a success.
These Bahamians, they want
Well, you don't
everything
have
for
to have it with
themselves.
the Bahamian, we have other nationalities here. You don't wanna make it happen.
Don't partner with the Chinese.
Well, they're right here. Knock on the
You're
door.
saying the same time.
Knock on the door.
no, no Chinese.
I don't know why.
What? That's the only place in that part, huh?
Africa's working with them.
Who, the Chinese?
The whole of Africa.
Trying to get up to date.
That's right.
And then drop them.
Yeah.
Not you finish. Don't let them sleep.
I don't think they can do
No,
that.
you can't do that. No.
They'll buy it.
And the last role of legislation is to create, repeal, revise, and reform the law. Why you look at me like that?
It's kind of a circular.
But that's what it is. If you want to change the law, how do you do it?
Well, I understand that.
Right.
If it says the
They create law,
the role of legislation.
they
for
create law, one,
main
that,
purposes.
that
Right.
was a creation. Repeal would be, you take a piece of legislation, you say this is no longer valid, period, and do a brand new one. Law does that.
Okay, is there a certain amount of legislation you're allowed to have?
No.
Okay.
Because the whole role of it is to regulate and control society, take it up as many as you want.
But you repeal when one clashes with the next?
Oh, yeah. When you need to create a brand new one, okay, say when in 2000, when we did a whole suite of financial legislation, all those that were in existence before were all repealed. No longer good. period.
Yeah.
Everything is 2000.
protection.
That's the new one. That's a creation.
What she said?
The Homeowners Protection Act. That's a creation. So take the FTRA, the new one that just came out. FTRR, the POCO, 2018. Those are all new legislation. So all the old one from 2000 is repealed. They're no longer valid.
So do they have a certain amount of years that they revisit to see?
No.
They just
What's it based on? We had it up here.
customs, international law, equity, and English common law.
Yes.
So when they change,
It could be a combination of all.
okay.
It could just be a change in society. There's too much of this going on, and so they decide they need to look at the legislation and see how they need to change it. And they do that by looking at other Commonwealth nations to see how they have addressed the problem. Alright? So when we talk about Bahamian law, there are some sources of Bahamian law, and I saw you all had written them all out. One is the Constitution. As an independent country, our first source of law, the first place you go with whatever happens to you, is the Constitution. Every Bahamian should have a copy of the Constitution. That is your rights. You see how whenever you talk to an American, you watch an American movie, they always say, oh, Bill of Rights number 4, oh, number 3, oh, number 2, and they go riddle their hair. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. You're supposed to know your rights.
In school.
Hmm?
You teach these things in school.
Well, you hear now. So when I speak to you next week, you should know it. You have to realize as an individual, everything is not taught in school. No. That's why your parents.
Discussions, yes.
Discussions, that's your rights.
So
So as an individual, they should have told you, these are your rights. If something happened to you, this is your right.
that's true.
As a Bahamian, you're supposed to know what you can stand up and say and do, and no one can touch you.
You can't bring us a copy
Yes,
of
they'll
that.
tell you.
No.
Yeah, but
As a
you
Bahamian
can't-
citizen, go and purchase one.
They're on the
You
internet
can't
somewhere.
purchase
I don't
it.
think they allow you to
Where
print
it is
that.
on the internet.
What's that?
Just searching
Where
out
can
the
you sit
Constitution.
I don't allow you to print
On
it.
there?
I don't think they allow you to print the Constitution. You
I think
buy
you
it.
have to buy it.
I got mine on my phone, I can print it out.
Well, you can do that if
You
you
give
want
it to
to.
me.
But it's actually in a book form.
$5.
The small book.
It's a small book.
Just buy it.
But
You
it
gotta
is
go
your
buy
right.
it. You gotta go buy the book
It's
for
your
like
right.
$15.
And then you'll be surprised when you read it.
Where is the book sold?
At a bookstore.
It's
Any
beyond
day
the
book
read
store?
though.
No, it's not hard to read.
Nowadays break down the laws.
It's English.
They're not breaking down the law. They're telling you
I mean,
your
I
rights.
actually said, oh, you mean the rights?
They tell you
I
your
think he's
rights.
talking about something else.
No.
It's your rights.
They thought-
It's your
I was
rights.
in focus just.
Your rights as a citizen of this
Oh, you
country.
mean rights,
I
alright.
won't read, not in the lawyer right.
My bad.
But then you'll never know your rights.
It's on the internet. No need to buy
It'd
it.
be so
That's why they know,
It's
yes.
so confusing.
And that's why you see they appeal and they re-appeal because they've read and they know what their rights are. If you don't know your rights, yeah, you have to know your rights
Yeah.
as a citizen. And once you know it, then you pass it on to your children. So wait on school. Okay, so first is the Constitution, the second one is English common law. So whenever people always keep saying, why the Queen, why the Queen, why the Queen? Because we are a colony, we always go back to case law. And from case law, then we look at what judgments were actually heard in the Bahamas. And that's why on the other pages, I have the hierarchy of our judiciary. So if you go to the hierarchy, the Privy Council is the highest court. That means that all of the courts below must follow what the Privy Council says. And each one is the same way. Magistrate court have to follow the ruling of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court must follow the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal has to follow the Privy Council.
Do we really honor family island
I
administrators?
was going to ask
Yes.
the same thing
Yeah.
just now.
This court.
They ain't use that much today, right?
Of course they
Yes, it
do.
is. Yes, it's
So
here.
if in Privy Council,
Mm-hmm,
if this case, let's say this person committed murder in this particular fashion,
mm-hmm.
and Privy Council, I mean, most people would say, okay, that warrants a death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
They would just assume that. But if Privy Council didn't hand it down, their worst punishment was, I guess, life imprisonment. You can't supersede that. You can't go
No,
beyond that
no.
because of the highest court.
Has already said based on that, unless your situation is worse than that. And that would have had that ruling would be in the Supreme Court moved to the Court of Appeal. And if you feel that that situation was worse than what the Privy Council said, then they would take it to the Privy Council
Okay.
for them to determine if that is the worst of the worst.
So that's where case law comes in.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Privy Council will look at other Commonwealth jurisdiction with the same crime, happen in the same nature, and see if this one is worse than that.
So do we intend to get rid of the Privy Council?
That's always an argument, but we like that
I mean,
independence.
is that practical, is that something that we'd likely do?
It depends on who sits in the chair.
You come to Jenny, right?
Yeah. And Attorney General. But again, read your constitution.
Mm-hmm.
But our constitution would, that would only
It's
be
in our
applicable to us, right?
constitution that the head of our judiciary is the Privy Council.
So we just need to revise that.
Things don't happen that easy.
Mm-hmm.
Read the constitution. Certain things require referendum. And decision by referendum go by percentage. Referendum costs money.
Well,
Millions.
they can have referendum over some dumb, over some not so important things.
Exactly.
I think
Gamblers?
you understand? I think we could consider finding the funds, something like that.
That's what people want it. The people, the aim is to go to the Privy Council. On land matters, trust matters, criminal matters, they go. Employment matters.
So as you, as a
I
friend,
never say a criminal going to Court of Appeal.
No, they stay with the Privy Council.
It's like
They
they
always
get
do.
those funds every time we talk about it.
Yeah, you gotta have that money.
Suggesting to get-
That's when they put up their house and the parents put up the house and the land and everything else. What you was gonna say?
so in financial, like in banking law,
Mhm.
do we have a similar hierarchy?
Same thing,
It's the same
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 thing, doesn't
thing?
matter. They go to Privy Council. There are a lot of company law cases that go to Privy Council. A lot.
What would be so drastic for a company, for a family case to go to Privy Council?
It could be where there was a trust and there is a dispute over the ownership of the trust.
What about it?
It could be a company where there was a change in a shareholding and the company and the company can decide who owns the shares or who the money should go to.
So it makes it that far?
Oh yeah.
What upon these
Or you
things
could have
like that?
someone die, you know that's
So but you have to
it's
push.
criminal.
So you're
That's
telling me
criminal.
the person's the person's associated with that ten trust, they don't have to carry that far, right?
They're
Mhm.
not
Doesn't
satisfied.
automatically
You're not
escalate.
outside of the outcome.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's stupid.
People fight
That's
for
how the
years.
judicial
So what
system
they
works.
want.
If you feel you have not been awarded properly or you
Right.
feel like it was unjust, then you appeal.
Because
So you make, so
Yes, you have to pay for it.
so basically you go through all that for one person to tell you how the money can get split.
Yes, that is the law of the
To
land.
satisfy them.
The law of the land is to regulate.
When billions and millions involved, it makes a lot of sense.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
A million?
All right. Okay.
I need a million.
But that
And
child is set to
company
inherit
billions?
Exactly.
$500 million.
If you have $5 million
Makes plenty
involved,
Let's say a
you
billion.
think the only
And
thing
it's
on
five
you,
of us.
let's say you get $1 billion
I
involved.
don't think it's only
You
the
think
money.
your mind only
No, it's
give
not the
you-
No,
money,
it's
just to
the
know what
state.
you
It's
want.
the rights.
Wait,
The
but you
right,
can
the
be-
right
you can
to
be
know
a whole
all kind
bill,
of
though.
things.
It's not
Really though?
But
about-
sometimes
You
you
can
wanna
never
clear
spend
your
it.
name.
Yeah.
Where you get?
Give me it.
You just want it.
Cause didn't the case with Tina, not
I
Tina,
give
You find a couple things.
Tina Turner. I think she only wanted a name, right? Cause her husband, he kept everything else.
Yeah,
I
he
kept
wanted to-
everything
he
else. She
wanted
just
to-
wanted Tina Turner.
He wanted
Yeah.
to name.
Cause the right to that name would have still brought more money than whatever he got
Exactly.
from her. So I guess it's
With
more
her
than
name and with her
money.
legs.
There's more
Yeah,
than
it's
money.
more than
What you mean?
It's more than the
Her
physical
legs.
money.
More in short.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Tina
I
Turner?
thought you
Yes.
was joking.
No, her legs run short.
Yeah, that's one shot.
Mm-hmm.
when she kept like
I know football players, ones who up here,
Mhm.
when I used to live with my team, I know, he enjoyed his hair.
Yeah, he can do whatever.
I never seen nothing
He
like that.
couldn't show anything.
But I mean,
Okay.
someone cut that now.
International law and the law of regional treaties. Source of Bahamian law. What does that involve? International law and law of regional
Like the
treaties.
conventions
Number
we
19.
sign on to.
Yes. All those international conventions. When we sign on to those, there's a time period in order for you to go and revise your law or repeal it and enact new legislation in order to comply.
When you see,
So who can give me a recent one that we still discussing? Recent should be fresh in everybody's mind.
WTO?
No, not WTO.
Recent?
Yes.
Regional
not the
categories?
IMF.
No. We don't sign with the IMF.
No, we have the Civil Aviation Act. And that
No.
came from an agreement that we had with ICAO.
Yeah, but that ain't,
No,
don't worry about that.
because that took a long time for us to even get our act in place, so I was
Yeah,
just
it
wondering,
took
you
too
said
long.
time frame.
We took too long. I always have to give you all a hint, man.
Just remember that the vote turned up.
Word
We
it out?
just said WTO.
Women's
Women's
rights.
rights.
Oh, I can receive.
Yeah, that was
What? That's
Yeah,
recent.
but that was
But that's
recent.
been going on, I mean, yeah.
No,
okay,
please.
okay.
Still recent?
It's still fresh.
It's still fresh.
It's fresh,
Can
man.
you give us
Oh,
a-
They still ain't finished. They still ain't
Because
finished.
they actually, they
Been
actually
discussing for the last, what,
They still ain't
3-4
finished with
years,
that.
eh? They still ain't
They
finished with
finished
it.
Still ain't
because now
finished with that.
they're looking at salaries now.
Yep.
Women's rights.
I want to see all them nurses then strike.
I'm telling you.
Women's rights.
I'm still looking for that.
So when you sign on to these agreements, when you sign an agreement, the agreement says that for a woman should make the same salary as a man in all professions. So you sign that. Then you have to go back to your home country and look at each piece of law that you have and see what affects it, yes.
Right.
And it all has to change. So, the question is, did we sign the international treaty for,
But what would that act be?
LGBTQ.
yes,
Oh,
I,
okay.
Did we?
So
LGBTQI,
that's
They have
what
a
that
new-
felt
they
like.
have
Oh,
a new
yeah, yeah,
letter
yeah.
now.
I can't remember what the I stands for. I didn't know.
identity crisis.
Enjoy.
Yeah, because you want to show.
Wait.
No, unsure is you, it's I,
I.
identity crisis.
Why would women's rights fall under that? That's a convention?
What?
This?
This,
LGBT?
yes?
No,
No,
that-
there's
I'm
women's
trying-
rights, and then there's this.
Oh,
No, that's the one, yeah, that's.
This
that's
is
the
fairness,
Something, okay.
this is discrimination, because you fall into one of those categories. And the argument is that I don't have,
But isn't discrimination?
I don't have that he has.
Oh,
Really want-
Because he can marry her.
okay,
But I can. But
I can't marry you
I see.
and have the same rights. They want the same rights.
It ain't about the discrimination. Like,
It is about
it is
discrimination, it's about
It is
discrimination
discrimination
also.
because they don't have the rights. Yeah, that is.
And they're
kind
not
of
respected for who they are, based upon whatever category that they're in. That they cannot go and write on a form,
Yeah, that.
instead of M or F, I can put a B, I can put a Q, I can put an I. I'm serious. Or there is a bathroom that's labeled for that. Or, even though I may fall into one of those categories, I can still go in the bathroom that says F. Or she can go in the bathroom that says M. So this is something that you all are going to have to decide on.
Want to know that they use the urinal, so I can't quickly.
Because now it has, the ones that are here have gone to other jurisdictions seeking asylum, saying that you all are discriminatory and they do not feel safe in their own country.
I think someone recently went to Canada from the Bahamas.
Yes,
did
and
that.
so a warning was issued to the citizenry of that country that you all are very discriminatory and you all do not like and do not respect these people in that
At
category.
the same time, okay, we signed on to a convention, right?
Yeah.
But we do have our customs and our established norms.
So you have a push between the two.
But what about
No,
the
no,
equity?
no,
What about
but
the
no one,
equity?
no one dictates what your customs are.
But you signed it.
Yeah.
So you went and you signed it. And now your people are pushing back.
So yeah, I think
But you signed it.
But even with some of these conventions, there's something called, oh my goodness, what's the word? Where you have exceptions. Well, we'll
I
acknowledge
mean,
this.
you'll take
trying
part
to-
of it. It depends on
I'm
what you
trying to remember
sign.
what it is, yeah.
You can sign and say,
It's an
except for a clause
exceptions.
this or article that.
Right. But it's
I
clear
don't
that we
think that
probably
happened.
didn't
You
know
probably
it
just
right.
signed the whole thing. It depends on who signed it and what they were
take all them
for.
trips of fun when the meeting over set.
Yeah.
When they wait for all those people. No.
Well, okay. And so now you're gonna be forced internationally to enact these things.
Yep.
And to accept them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you do so.
Huh?
I feel you to do so.
That's fine.
It will, yeah, it'll get messy.
Mm-hmm.
The publicity will
Yeah.
kill
Yep.
number one industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because there'll be discrimination
And
against
you
the
have a bunch of
nation.
people coming over. Yeah, yeah.
Last year, I think
Better
it's
register.
last year carnival or the one before.
Well, the register, you
And they
know.
had that big,
Yeah.
and they had that big fight on Nassau Street.
Yeah. They chose one chairs and
Beat them
them.
so bad on Nassau Street.
They chose one chairs.
They,
Yeah, I see them. That's all. Oh.
Okay? Stop sucking your teeth.
Alright, alright.
This is just food for thought.
I'd like to,
Yeah?
I'd like to believe we're a little bit more sensitized to things of this nature. The conventions we're signing on to, like reading.
Oh, you mean from that end?
Yes,
Well, the damage has already been done.
but I'm sure there's more to come.
They telling you?
Yeah.
That's when we go to these conferences we sit.
Mhm.
We don't pay attention to all of it.
But if I have a belief, and I believe that I think we should move in this direction, and I believe that those that I know are in the minority are being discriminated against, would I not sign it? That's how you have to
We'll take
think.
baby steps as a country. That's what I would do. We'd take baby steps.
Yeah, but that's why we throw it out there, so you could start to think about it and accept it and stop rejecting.
Anyway, don't say that.
Not everyone believes in it.
No.
That's another
Another
topic.
topic.
Yes. So you see what I'm
It
saying?
ain't matter what you believe in this, anyway.
Just leave that topic
But
alone.
leave it, yeah, we leave it alone, because the first paragraph of the Constitution says what? No,
What?
Put it down. the Constitution of the, says what?
You have it on your phone?
We are a Christian nation.
God, what it is, God fearing it.
That's
That's what it is.
Discrimination right there.
Uh-huh.
You cannot be a nation whose whole principle is founded on Christian principles. No,
Followed by what? The Bible, right?
it doesn't say the word Bible.
That's
Right,
that
but
our
if you say Christian nation, you would think that we
Follow
follow
Christian.
the Bible, right?
Follow Christian
Christianity,
principles,
yeah.
Christianity.
Is that a Christian principle?
No.
No.
It's
No,
really,
it's not a, no,
it's really not a
it's
Christian
a principle.
No.
Say
It's
less.
just
It's
a
not
name, a label given
Yeah.
to people who act differently.
So why is it that we have?
Child, they go to judgment day by themselves and
So-
get sent wherever.
So why is it that we
So
have?
who are you to judge?
Yeah.
So why is it that we have this Christian label as like the number one thing in our country?
It's in our
Right.
constitution.
Yeah, right. And the LGBT community could just come and say, "Oh, y'all need to pass this law." Like, why they just don't?
Because it's on that same
Why did-
principle.
Then they need to move that, they need to move that from the Constitution
They
and,
need to move that one
cause
time.
something being
So take a
happening.
Christian nation.
That can't
So the
move.
thing
It
is-
don't add up. That don't go together. So why are we
You say
considered?
one thing, still like.
Why are we considered in all
English
this?
It's country.
It's contradictory, yeah.
No.
So why is it that we
So take
have
a
to?
Christian
What is
and then
Christian?
pass the laws for them.
Then what about the?
Isn't it Christian
But what? But then
impossible?
what about the majority then?
Yeah, there's a couple of videos.
I don't think it's Christian. You can still love them, but you
No,
don't
they're
have
a
to support
minority
it.
and you're the majority, that's what I'm saying, so what about the majority? Now, you take out Christian, don't you follow Christian beliefs?
Right?
So
what you're
why,
saying.
why you wanna take out the Christian then?
Well,
Just
technically,
for
you can
my
still follow
minority
your
group.
Christian.
No, I ain't
No.
saying they trying to take over
Let's
the
not
Christian.
take over the
Uh-huh.
Christian.
We ain't saying take over the Christian.
Let's just not put them there.
That's just right, because that's not Christian.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what we
that's
said.
what you
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah.
It's
Why
not because
is-
you-
why is-
I'm
yeah,
sure
you're
you was
thinking
getting
the
the
wrong
same
way.
thing, you was
Yes.
thinking the same thing, right?
No,
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
taking the
You
wrong
say
way.
take out the Christian.
No, he's saying why is it that we have to go through the processes of having to like adhere to these rules?
Oh, okay, I was thinking
Yeah.
it the opposite way.
No, no,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
trying to tell me.
Because you
Yeah.
come into a Christian nation to pass on LGBT.
But I was born here.
So that means I could walk into a woman's bathroom if that pass.
Yeah.
That don't even sound correct. That just don't sound right.
You go wear
And it's a
dress if you
Christian
wish.
nation, right?
It don't sound right.
Do you wish to wear dress?
They should create
No.
that
You will have that
for
freedom to do that.
them who
That's
confused.
weird.
But you have the freedom
It should
to
be a
wait.
female male.
You'll be
and those
discriminated
who
against.
confused pattern.
But you be
Hold
discriminated.
on.
Okay,
So
but we
they won't
discriminated
pass
for being
that.
black though.
Hold on to a question.
Yes, that's different one.
That's a question.
That's
So-
that's
With a
race.
man in bathroom.
That's race.
So why we up that
The
for race?
Constitution says you cannot be discriminated upon because of your race,
Right.
religion,
Right.
creed. They
Right.
want that added in there.
So you trying to tell me
But we
that
still are
they want that?
discriminated.
They
though,
want
so
that to
we can
pass.
change.
Yes.
Where
So we
he
can
could,
change.
he could put on a dress and walk around in Nassau,
And not
Bahamas,
get these.
Yes.
and not the
Why you
fuck
crazy?
till they can need to build a whole new one.
I just
A whole new one.
That don't make no sense. So you might as well just leave
They
it.
got
They
new
can
one.
have the populate on the island.
You think them niggas care about tourism after that pass?
So what they so
They get into Nassau gone anyway.
Okay.
Yo, this getting so
Party man
heated.
friends.
No, but
Hey,
it's
that's
just-
John,
it's just reality though. Like even if you pass a law, you
So
still.
where you'll be when all this discussion was happening in
You
this
can be
island?
comfortable in the bathroom with a man, although he play like he's a woman, but
Yes, yes.
How we just
You know what I mean?
what?
You feel comfortable with
So
them
wait,
staying
so
in
y'all ain't gonna-
I know
so y'all ain't gonna
what
fight them
I
all?
something happened.
So y'all ain't gonna push
But
them
any
all?
man's come next to you.
If the woman's bathroom is full,
Come in the
men
bathroom.
I mean, you can't go body your face, right? You expecting to have hot boys and you're able to.
And what you said,
How you feel with that? How you feel with that?
I mean, you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't
I
tell
don't
me
know
that.
if you want
If you want to beat me up, I go to court. I gotta pee. I gotta pee.
Maybe be in the skirt.
Talk to me.
But you all are always on the phone, don't you see all the men are dressed
No,
like
but-
women?
They had big party the other day.
Their parties, they have parades,
They
they
have
have everything.
They have fashion shows.
Fashion
I
shows.
I used to seeing niggas fight when they go fish fry. You want to see that video when all them was fighting fish fry? Boy, I never see a fight like that in Nassau yet.
No, but they don't be dressed up in their wigs and makeup and they shine. They
That's
look like regular man.
Yeah, they fist blow.
But nighttime,
You all
you
shoot.
guys a different person.
Yeah, they fist blow.
Fist blow.
Most of the times they're over love.
Yeah, it is over love.
Oh, anyway.
They love hard.
Yeah, they do.
Terrible man. God help the
I just
people.
need to feel comfortable like.
I'll turn in my stomach now. Let's get off this.
Let's move. Common
But
law.
this-
common law, yeah.
Well, case law is both a legal and historical source of law. See, that's good when you talk, so you go do some homework.
I need to know more than that.
It's just a bunch of fools.
But if you did a constitutional law class,
You have to go.
you will have to have that discussion.
It's the reality.
It's a reality. You have to look at that versus other jurisdictions who are actually passing it.
It's becoming a custom.
I probably don't have questions.
And they're passing it everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, you all are frightened for civil unions.
It's becoming a
All over the world, there are civil unions.
Yeah.
Man and man getting married, woman and woman getting married.
Yeah.
They walk on Bay Street, they hold hands together.
Yeah.
I saw the man walking on Bay Street, he had on his white sheer pants with his thumbs and it holding his other man. They were married.
Yeah, he was. You know how many people screw down there with no say something to them?
No, don't do that. You can't do that.
You can't.
You cannot do that.
They can, but
But
they do.
you'll be on
Like you said.
you'll be in CNN,
Yeah, don't do
CNN
that.
that afternoon.
Don't do that.
So if I go to America and a
Right.
white person called me the N-word, that's a fight. I could fight
That's
that.
different.
I
They
could
actually
fight.
That's
won't call you
different.
that.
They won't call you that.
No,
Why they
you
won't?
know,
No.
y'all
They
see the
won't?
video
They
when the
won't?
white man
Right
was calling the
now,
white
right
man
now.
gay.
I know you
Yeah.
want me.
You don't use the N-word.
They want.
They don't.
Which
They
ones?
use the N-word.
Oh, they
The
don't.
nice ones, eh?
The nice
The
ones.
white
Some
man
of them.
They
was
lock up for
fought
that, you
for
know.
us.
one white man, he was
Jerry lock up, he's calling the police, the lady police, nigga, he keep on screaming at.
Never call you a nigga.
No.
I'm telling you. They call African Americans niggas.
So let's go, common law. Yeah, you have some work to do. Well, case law is both a legal and historical source of law. It is historical because its existence is directly linked to the experience of colonialization in the Caribbean region and the consequences to the option and transplantation of law from England. So that's what they normally say. They normally say all the laws in the colonies, once they became independent, they call that transplantation. Because we actually took the laws from England without changing it and bring it here. So if you go under the laws of the Bahamas and look at some of the very, very old acts, like vagrancy. So you'll see acts on the books from 1800s. Those are all transplantation. Whatever they gave us when we went for the Constitution and whatever was here from that time, they've stayed. They haven't changed those.
I think it's like there's a law having an open bottle on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that.
Really?
Right.
There it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, yes, there is.
Mhm.
What?
They have an open one, like if I walk in and
Yeah,
road.
it's supposed to be in a
It's
brown
against
paper
the
bag.
law.
So it depends on what mode the police are in when you walk Bay Street. You'll get arrested
Yeah.
and they will carry you down East Street.
Yes, they
Come
are.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah,
That's against the law. You know that one, right? Yeah, see, he knows it.
I didn't know that.
It is.
It's the law.
It's the law.
I know you were supposed to have open
Oh,
bottles.
yes,
Yes,
they
they
are.
Yes.
But the police is doing that?
You must see them know them young ones who looking for promotion. They will lock you up
They
for
lock for
everything.
anything,
Everything.
Just to fill up
Okay.
in books.
Everything.
So in common law, each case or judgment of the court builds on the principles stated in previous judgment. So we discussed that already. Whenever, if you go to a lawyer and he's doing a matter on your behalf, he goes and he looks up similar cases. Because he's going to use those in his argument. So he'll either follow the higher courts in the Bahamas, and if he can't find something that's close to it, he goes and he looks up cases from another Commonwealth jurisdiction. So central to the notion of the common laws of legal source is the doctrine of precedent, or we call stare decisis, which is let the decision stand. The doctrine of judicial precedent proceeds on the assumption that where there are no appreciable statutes on a particular legal issue, the judge must look to case law, that is, a case decided previously, to find the relevant law upon which to base his decision, which I just explained to you. You always look at the cases before. There are two types of judicial precedents, binding and persuasive precedents. So if you go to the judicial system on page 21, every decision that's made in the court above the one below is binding, which means that you cannot change it.
Yeah.
If you had a case that said if you throw the ball over the fence and you knock that man in his head, the most he can get is $50, and your case is the same, it's 50 you would charge. That's it, because it's binding. When you go outside of this structure and you go to another Commonwealth jurisdiction and you find a case that is close to yours, you say that is persuasive. You can argue to the court that this is more in line with my case rather than the one that's actually from our
And
courts.
so the judge.
We'll take it into
will take
consideration.
Like possibly.
You take it into consideration when he's making his decision.
Oh, when he's making his final decision.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So persuasive precedents are those legal principles contained in judgments which merely offer guidance. For example, the Court of Appeal in Trinidad and Tobago are persuasive because that's another Commonwealth jurisdiction. So you could use Canada, you could use United States, you could use Malaysia,
Okay.
any one of those Commonwealth jurisdictions. So that's why sometimes you see a lawyer would charge so much money.
Yeah, because it's.
Because at the end of the day, you may say, well, he only presented 2 matters in my support, but he would have gone all about trying to find something as close to what happened to you in order to be, the bill of case to be persuasive.
Yeah.
So it would only be binding if it came from the court of
Privy
appeal.
council.
I mean, the privy council.
Yeah.
From way up like.
And the Privy Council.
But anytime you have to go out of that and find a case,
It's persuasive.
it's crazy.
Yeah. So sometimes like, you may go, depends on the matter, and then the lawyer may say,
I think you could.
I don't know if we ever had a case like this or close to this.
Right.
I'm gonna have to do some research.
So is there like a list of cases that the lawyer has in front of them or something like that? Or they just do their
They
own?
research.
They
it.
research.
Do their own research.
They do their
on
own research.
time.
No, they bill you for that. That's billable hours.
That's where the money is.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So he'll have a team of lawyers who's gonna do research
Okay.
and try to find what's close to yours.
So they pull in files. They really just pull in files.
Yeah, but you gotta read it.
Yeah.
You just pull it, you gotta read it.
That's like.
That's where the money is. Keep saying it.
Well.
So usually decisions of the Privy Council originating from one Commonwealth Caribbean jurisdiction will usually bind another jurisdiction. Again, you always look at the nature of how the crime took place or what the issue is. The degree of persuasiveness of a precedent will depend on a variety of factors, which includes the jurisdiction from which it emanates. So you look at whether or not the customs, the local customs of the country is similar to your country. Because that's the first thing you have to look at. If the customs are totally different, it doesn't matter. Because it just won't match. The status of the court which makes a decision and its date. Occasionally, the reputation of the judge will influence another court. So sometimes you can say this decision was made by him, but everybody knows he's an alcoholic. So he may have won that case. It may be binding, but based on his reputation, they may say, oh yeah, or just relax. They may say, it has no weight. So the Bahamian court structure comprises, like we said, the Privy Council, the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and the Magistrate Court. So the Court of Appeal is the highest court in the Bahamas and hears appeals from the Supreme Court and all of the lower courts. So who's ever sat in the Court of Appeal?
Was there?
Mm-hmm. No? You ever sat in the Supreme Court?
I didn't know where you go for tickets today.
No.
I've been in Supreme Court.
That's night court.
I didn't know.
Been in the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court is open. You could just go in and sit down
Where is that?
and listen.
Right there.
Because it's all
Cross and
public
square.
information.
It's public.
Right there.
You just go and sit down and get that criminal matter.
Where in
It's
Rochester?
terrifying though.
You ain't cross your word for
Right
the
there.
man about the start.
That's
Yes.
the firm court.
So you just can walk in?
Yes.
Right, so you
Sit
can just
down.
walk in?
You can walk in and
Like I
hear
just could
it.
open the door and just sit down?
You walk in.
Where,
Nobody can say nothing to me?
No.
where is it though?
Right there.
Right there in Rawson Square.
Where are in
And,
Rochester?
but you cross
I
your
know
word
where
from
the
some
first
island
Yeah,
by
that's all it is.
the square, boy?
Let me let me
Right
know.
there.
Right by Rawson Square, by the some island about the statue.
Yes, yes.
You know
okay.
the
By the
library
cannon,
is?
by the cannon
By
doors.
England.
Where the library is? Right there.
Now old looking building.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Hold on, wait, you saying inside there?
You know,
So you just
saying
can
it's
walk
inside
in.
there?
and just sit down and listen to
I've been
everything.
listening to you walk upstairs. The police officer gonna ask
I
you.
didn't shoot up, bro.
He knows where it is.
And then-
Yeah.
The only matters you can go into is what we call closed court.
Yeah. When the
Train
court is
closed court.
When matrimonial matters. You can go coroner's court, gun court. Yeah, those courts are there.
So you can't sit on murders then?
Only nosy people is doing that.
No, they're not, no, it's not being nosy, you know. You,
Sure it is.
if you want to know what's happening in your country, if you want to know how your judicial system works, you just sit in and listen to a court matter.
When it's in the newspaper.
No murder cases, something like that?
Yes, you
So
just
they
want
ain't
to
like
sit down.
seeing it. They ain't like
The
It's
seeing
only
it.
not you
thing
being
is-
on a jury, you know.
Listen.
You're just sitting
You're
in,
just
you're just
sitting as a
observing
public-
and listening.
Highway.
As a public,
attendant.
yes.
And why this fight broke in the bus. And the police couldn't stop it. Like, it was just terrifying. No
Yeah.
lie.
I would like to hear the lawyers argue. Like, I would like to hear
You
that.
could just go and listen to it.
And then they bring the criminals right past.
And they
us.
bring the criminals past
I
you,
know,
yes.
it's like, hold on, wait.
It's like watching a celebrity.
And they put
And
them in
also
the little
that-
cage in the middle of the
And you
court.
could watch the people as they give
They have
evidence.
it in the section, the
With the
types,
shoppers
how
on
many
their
types of
phone.
cases
So they
they
sit
hear,
right
Hmm?
like murder
They
cases
looking
in
at
the
you.
morning,
Never.
matrimony.
Different courts have different
I
hearings.
used to do legal
Different
work
types
for
of
the
cases.
so
Yeah.
Supreme Court, you want to apply for Supreme Court though.
I do don't
Because
know.
there's a magistrate court, normally you would work as a
Hold on, give it a
Supreme Court, right?
Supreme Court is the actual murder trial.
Obviously those in it.
So what, you can't just walk in into the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
You could just walk into the Supreme Court trial?
Yeah, and sit down and listen.
Why didn't we know that?
Hey, do that.
Where you all
I
this
can
be?
sit front seat.
You didn't learn that in school either?
No.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to encourage us to do that.
That's something I take with ministry education.
So how would you ever know if you have an interest in working in the courts? Not necessarily to be a lawyer, to be a judge, to be a stenographer, to be a clerk. How would you know? No, it's not the same thing. We do not do law like that in the Bahamas. There's no showboating there.
Why they scared us so bad?
You have to know the law. You get up to speak the law. That's it.
That's like how
You're not dressing up and showing off in there. I didn't know the law, you don't.
That's a law.
I don't know where y'all just get these things from.
It's interesting though.
You should go. On your lunch hour, just walk in and sit down. Take your lunch hour around 11, 11:30. It's by 2 o'clock they close.
Yeah,
I want to listen to a serious case.
yeah, deep one.
They'll write in the newspaper, they'll tell you this happened today in this case.
And they'll tell you when the next day.
Yeah, and you
Yeah, but
go,
they ain't gonna tell me all the specifics.
There's a movie?
like what?
I want to hear the specifics.
On the
of
point
case.
of time when you go there, you are there at that time, you will hear it, other people get evidence as they ask questions. Or you may just want to be a court reporter. There's many different roles you can play in the judiciary. But you wouldn't know it if you don't go.
But it's government.
It's not that the government is for your people.
Yeah.
You have issues. Okay, the magistrate court. You afraid to know about the magistrate court. What you know about the magistrate court? If I wanted to sue you for 15,000, which court would I go to?
Supreme Court.
Yeah. So what is this? What is the magistrate court do?
Magistrate court, they deal with civil matters, I believe.
Supreme Court do.
But right, they don't deal with no cases. I don't say not about it, but they don't deal with cases or matters under or over $5,000,
Mm-hmm.
and they deal with civil matters.
What else?
They think they see murder cases too.
Preliminary. Preliminary.
What you mean by
Preliminary.
Preliminary. When you just start the inquiry.
Yeah.
What do you see the courts are doing now? They overstep the magistrate. What do? Court.
Take them straight to the Supreme Court.
How do you do that? Voluntary bill of indictment. So you just leave that step on this, get them straight to Supreme Court.
So why
Fast track them to
so
jail.
why they taking the magistrate's court for?
Fast track them.
Fast track the thing because they just.
Just to speed up the case then.
Speed it up.
And appeals from the.
And appeals, all of that. Yeah. Just speed it up.
That's the,
Hmm?
so it's like, what's the process of speeding it up?
Just send you to jail quicker.
No, I mean, what's the process, like, what's the step-by-step process in order for them to like, go straight to the Supreme Court?
All they do is issue a voluntary bill of indictment.
And how's
A
that?
one-page document.
It's written up,
Yeah.
and then
Send
someone
it to
signs
Supreme
it,
Court.
and
Yeah.
You
that's
gotta
it.
pay for that.
Yeah.
You
They
gotta
pay for that, you say?
No, he does that.
Okay.
The Attorney General does that. Then you have the Family Island administrators. They're for small matters.
When they say Family Island, that in New Providence too, right? That in Nassau too? No, Nassau ain't no Family
What's the
Island.
family? We are the capital.
Yeah, the capital, as I said, so I ain't
So
Nassau.
what's
the city?
What type of
Yeah,
matters
I
is
am
this
Nassau.
government?
No, I saying the Family Island administrators,
Family
you have
Island
to
is
go to
where?
the Family Island to go deal with them.
What is
Yes.
no magistrate in Supreme Court?
So,
Huh?
Where anyone
So
with
people
no
just do that?
magistrate's court, right?
Right, the Family Island.
you know what I say?
Small.
No, I saying if people
asking
do that, I said
about,
people like with minor matters
matters
over
they
here,
deal
No,
they
no,
would.
no, 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 no.
That's
No,
what I'm saying.
No,
It's
no,
only
no,
matters on
no.
the
The
island.
jurisdiction is where you are.
Oh, okay.
Island
That's what I
right.
asked you. So
Yeah,
you don't just
okay.
go to another.
No,
So,
Alright.
what type of matters they deal with?
Small matters,
Small
small
matters.
matters.
Anything.
If you
That's
commit
why I asked
murder,
you.
you commit murder, they put you on the plane and bring you
Yeah.
here.
That's nothing
I got
over
you. I got
nothing
you.
over $400, right?
200 eh?
Yeah.
So we don't do that. We don't go over
Nothing
there.
over what?
No,
Nothing
we take
over
it.
$400.
$400. Small
$400.
matters.
Yeah.
Small matters. And then of course free court matters, also have to be free court.
They have a thing
They have
over
a
there
whole
too, right?
court.
Yeah, they have a Supreme Court and a Magistrate Court
Yeah.
over there.
Let's go to some.
So you'll see when we start to get cases, because we're gonna start looking at cases next week, because we begin contract law. There are two terminologies, well, more than one, but two terms you have to know. One is the ratio de sedendi. It's in your notes.
That's basically like the reason why the judge came up with
Yes.
with the answer.
Right. And the next one is opta dicta.
That's
By
by
way. So that means when they go all around giving you like a scenario of,
It's just running on.
yeah, they're just talking about this is the circumstances and this and that, but it's not the real reason why they decided what they decided. So whenever you read a legal case, you have to decide what is the real reason and what was just talking.
So that talking is being
That's
just
A background.
That's chapter 3, right?
Oh, okay.
So you just have a legit term for it.
Yeah.
That's just these are
It's
just
called
the
opta
terms.
dicta.
That's
Okay. Okay.
No, just
22. Right there.
So yeah.
Stare decisis means let the decision stand, and we said that one already. And then distinguishing binding precedents. This is where the court avoid the precedent of binding precedent. So say if there is a matter, you're in the Supreme Court, and there is a matter from the Court of Appeals, and you know that you have to follow that. What we call the distinguishing is you have to look at the facts of the case and determine that your facts are not exactly like that. There are some differences. And so your lawyer will have to prove to the judge, what we call distinguish, that the facts are not the same. So I cannot rely on that decision.
Right, so that means,
Yeah,
so you basically finding a loophole
So right,
to
right.
get out
Yeah,
of
so
what the Privy
you want
Council
the-
says.
Or whatever the higher
After the
court
decision
said.
was made,
Yes.
you trying to, alright,
You don't wanna use that, okay?
you're not serious. Give me that.
All right. So the next thing I have is what we call rules of statutory interpretation. So I know when you go home tonight and you go to the laws of the Bahamas website from A to Z, you pick out an act that you wish to read. Could be the Gaming Act, could be the Sexual Offences Act, could be the Employment Act, Industrial Relations Act, there are many acts. One for protection of flamingos, Vagrancy Act, whatever, Road Traffic Act. And you made a statement when you said when you read it, it's, what did you say? When you read the laws as well?
Oh, the arts, yeah, like,
It's like, what?
it's a lot of
Foreign
terms.
language.
Yeah.
Okay, alright.
It's very English.
So,
Extremely English.
it is English.
Yeah,
It is
very.
English.
So there are rules when you read,
Mhm.
right? So the first rule is called the literal rule. It's here the role of the judge is to ascertain the intention of Parliament of the act itself. Because remember, I told you that the role of the judiciary is to interpret the law. So if there is a particular section in the law, and that's what you're using as your defense, the judge then interprets that law. And he interprets that law by using one of these rules.
So he's
So
judiciary.
interpreting.
Yeah, the judge.
Only him.
Yeah.
Like,
When the judge interprets the law, that is what it means.
that's his
Your-
interpretation.
Yes, and that's the one that stands. Your lawyer will interpret it based on these rules also. But the
it's
judge
still
is the one
judge's
that gives the final
interpretation.
interpretation.
So you got a stubborn judge
What I
on
said?
that.
Right.
Being open to changing his mind.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if he uses the literal rule,
Yeah.
he's gonna tell you, based upon this section, this was the intention of Parliament when they enacted this.
Without even looking at the circumstance.
Yeah, that's what he's gonna say.
Mm.
Okay? So if the words are capable of only one meaning, then this is the meaning the court will take, and the statute is enforced as it is.
That's it.
That's it.
No more though.
And that's the same thing as the golden rule?
No. What's the golden rule?
Whatever it's interpreted as first stands, right?
More than one meaning.
When you have more than one meaning.
I-
Golden rule is where there's more than one meaning.
You do this.
Oh, I see.
More than one meaning. Or when the judge looks at, if he took it literally and it wouldn't make any sense,
But
then he would apply the
Interpret
golden
it.
rule.
It is.
So he would then say that.
No. When you read the case,
Yeah, just gonna say, yeah.
when you read the case,
What's he say?
you'll be
figure
able to
out
see
which one he
he used.
So he isn't gonna say, I
He don't say, I'm gonna use the golden rule. No,
No.
I'm not gonna tell you that.
So
When
if
you're
you
gonna
ain't
get your
smart,
car repaired,
No,
does the
so
mechanic
if-
say,
so
oh,
if
I
you
think I'm gonna use the
Okay.
4-way
Yeah.
pliers. Oh, I think I'll use the silver wrench 8 inches wide. No, he doesn't. He just fixes it.
so if you ain't know the law, and he said, and he just decide to interpret it in his own way, you're like, but.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay.
So the next-
Even if you know the law and he decides to
I thought I said,
turn
yeah,
it his own way, then what do you say with that, right? Because he still have the final say.
He'll appeal.
And now will be your ground for your legal argument.
It's interpretation. So the next one is the mischief rule. This rule can be applied where the statute under consideration was to remedy a defect or mischief in the law. So normally you apply the mischief rule when the law is actually legislated to stop you from doing something.
Example.
Explain it, yeah.
I ain't even stop you from doing something.
Stop you as a human. Don't forget law is to regulate.
You're right. Give me a law that stops you from doing something in our country.
Vagrancy.
Okay. So, when you applying this mischief rule,
And if you are
you
found
could
to be vagrant, they will enforce the law. Because the whole purpose of the law was to stop you from
so
hanging around and loitering
I was
around.
just gonna say,
You see what I'm
in the
saying?
case I
So the
say-
law was done for a particular purpose.
in the
So
case
you
I
have
say,
a
oh,
sign-
someone just beat me up,
If you don't have
and
a
they
sign
beat me
outside
out on the
saying,
floor,
That's not vagrancy.
I'm vagrancy.
No.
Okay.
And I've been hanging there
I
for
don't
like
wanna.
1 day, 2 days, right? I can't get up.
Yeah, but when you explain the circumstances, they may pick you up as a vagrant. When
Right?
you explain that you're not a vagrant.
Right.
A vagrant is someone who don't have any place to go.
So which rule would that judge enforce? Which rule would he?
They probably will let you go.
He let, okay. So no rule, just.
But if you go outside and you urinate around that pole, you'll be arrested.
I might appear myself.
You're not allowed to urinate
Okay.
on the public streets. Or expose yourself in public.
Oh, wow.
No, not allowed.
So
what
why
is
they don't lock these
wrongful
fools up?
exposure, that's it? No,
They must
Indecent
say that
exposure?
from the
Indecent
beginning.
exposure. And be careful not to do it in the States. You will be fined.
I mean, but the police don't see that. The police see the Joneses every day.
That's what he
Yeah.
said.
So why they lock the Joneses up?
Yeah.
Yeah, why
Them
ain't
the ones
Joneses
who
in
shoot
all
and
our
they
streets?
kill.
Why they ain't throw them in
And they see
jail?
them every day.
Why they ain't in jail?
Or silent or something.
Cause they vagrant,
They
but
do put them in, but they're
Oh.
only there for a time.
for short
A
time,
short
short
time.
time.
Mhm. They
And
let
let's
them
go
out.
right back.
Let's go right back to the scene.
And that's because the family members don't take care of them.
All they
You have a
saying
responsibility.
all they saying is they done clean my spot. I'm glad of it.
So the next rule is justum generis. Okay? This applies to general words or summary which follow particular words. So you normally would see this used in agriculture,
Pronunciation.
justum generis. You normally see this like agriculture or road traffic legislation. So if I say, this applies to all vehicles, right? If I say this applies to all vehicles, right? And I put, what else? We just call them little things, we used to like this.
That's good, huh?
Okay, okay, I put the other one you say.
Moped.
Why have you spell that? I don't know. Okay,
Carts.
all right. And so let's say you're
That's a little bit.
But
you've
it's
been
the same
charged
thing.
under this section, right? But you were driving,
If I driving a toy.
Which was not listed under that section.
so would it fall under this category? That's what justum generis mean. The law's giving you examples of what they mean by vehicle in this actual clause.
But it's still
So look at it.
It's still
But
the
it's
same
still up
thing.
Is that
But wait,
examples or
it's two?
definition?
No
They,
example.
they give you those
Two
examples.
wheels.
So they give you them examples.
For this clause,
Yeah.
did they give exact examples?
Exact
Two wheels, two wheels,
Right.
two wheels,
Right.
two wheels. How many is this?
Four.
So it don't fall there. So that's when you see people say they got off, cause it was on, they were charged under the wrong section.
So
Yeah,
the
but
judge
all the
can't
time.
even,
So
so the
see?
judge can't ignore it, so, but you still say
So
it's
the
left to the
police don't
judge's
get-
interpretation.
No, you could use that rule.
But that doesn't mean it's still
He
left.
would use that
See,
rule,
that's why
because
it's
this
good to
rule,
know.
this rule, Houston General's rule
But,
refers to a list.
So he have to use, he can't ignore that. He
No.
can't say,
You can,
Okay.
you can run that back, please, what you said, when you was talking about two, I wasn't focused on that piece,
What?
when you touched the one you said, right, and all that.
Okay,
But
here,
that's fine.
I'm saying, if you are charged or you wanted to bring a suit under a particular section in the legislation, the legislation had whatever words before it, and it said vehicles, right? Has a colon, and it says bicycle, scooter, motorbike, moped. Houston General's rule means that these are examples of what the law meant by the word vehicles. These are all two-wheelers. This is a four-wheeler, so it doesn't fall within it.
So that means the only way they get charged you is if you have a two-wheel.
Yes,
you have
under
two-wheel.
this section,
So that's,
You could
that's.
get away with
if
that. You
there
could
was
still
a
get off scot-free.
technicality.
yes.
You could
Yeah,
walk
all the time.
and the
See?
judge can't ignore that. He can't
No,
say,
we can't,
oh.
that's the rule.
And-
A rule of statutory
If you know yourself, you
interpretation.
could represent yourself.
That's what they always do.
Yeah, you know, you can represent yourself if you know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
What?
the children on the road with bicycles.
They should all be
They
licensed.
supposed to be licensed.
You see, the problem comes in when an accident happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if I knock you down on your motorcycle or whatever and you're not licensed,
But he,
I can use that against my damages. So unless you say the cost for your repairs for your new bicycle and the cost for your knee or whatever is $400. But I look at the cost to me, because you really should not have been on the road.
exactly, to begin with.
So I'm not giving you all of that.
Nope.
Will the person die like?
That's different. You fall under vehicular manslaughter, something totally different. But again, if the family wanted to sue, then the amount that they get will decrease. Because if they were not licensed to be on the road, that's the first infraction, money has to come off.
But manslaughter is
But
like
why is
the
that
number one thing
different?
they look at.
Yeah, they still look at that, but the family can bring a civil suit.
Why is that different?
What?
Vehicular manslaughter.
It's murder.
That's
But
murder,
I mean,
it's
they should
murder's
have been on
murder.
the road, so why
No,
is
but
that?
murder is
Yeah, but you
murder.
can only use that in terms of their family suing you for damages. Yeah.
You take a life.
You took a life.
You have to be responsible
And
for
I
that in
had
some
the
way.
expectation that this person would have lived until they were 60.
That's true.
They were making a good job. They were making about 40,000 a
Yeah,
year.
that's
So
what-
40,000 for the next 40 years. I want 1.5 million.
Still take a life.
I like it.
So you could file a civil suit. And if you have children and you say, this is what I need to take care of your
Take care of
children
it,
until they reach the age of 18 and they had already said they were going off to school, so you put all of that in the suit. Yes?
They already got accepted.
To be very
So
careful
some-
what you do.
some
Yes,
questions.
someone could sue you.
If you sue me and I don't have no money, what comes out of that?
That debt stays there until you make money. Every time you make money, you will pay me.
You might never
If
make
you have a
anybody.
property,
You living for
And if
them?
you die,
uh-huh.
They go to-
And he
or
insured.
someone
So
dies,
who's
and
taking
they
that?
give you money, I'm entitled to that too.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Because unless
Oh,
it's
man.
seven.
Well,
Yeah.
what if you know somebody leave me that I'm insured
Wow.
or
But I
nothing?
don't get anything.
So the person will go to jail?
Yes, but you can still sue them. When they have the accident, right? When you go to vehicular
'Cause they looking at
manslaughter, right?
money.
That falls under what type of law?
Option is to get money.
Penal.
Under criminal law.
Criminal law.
But when I want to sue you for the money that I'm
Civil.
losing,
That's
that's
civil.
civil.
Yeah, that's
So I can bring two actions.
combo it.
The state will bring you for vehicular manslaughter.
But I can.
I am gonna bring you under civil law.
So hold on. So if you,
You're just grieving.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So if this person say, okay,
What did they do to, what's his name? O.J. Simpson.
sure, right?
They sued him. He had a criminal matter for murder,
Yeah.
right? Not that one. He had a criminal matter for murder, and he got off free. Remember?
Yeah.
If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Then what did the family do?
So,
They sued him
Easy.
for everything he had,
OJ.
and they won.
They want me to do nothing.
You see?
I agree with them guys who soon do.
Then of course the other one you talk about the trophies he went to jail was a different matter. Because they were stolen and then he stole them back.
Hold on, hold on.
Wow, come on. And that's,
So if
I have a
this nigga
problem with
thief
that.
my phone,
That's what they say.
You cannot go in his house and take it back.
I have a
Why
problem
if
with
my
that.
name, if my name engraved
I
on my
understand
phone,
this. I
You
understand
can't just
this.
go in
Still,
someone's
but
house.
still.
Past
Yeah,
then.
because you're
It was
breaking
on
it
the
I'm
out.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause he had a
You can't do that.
gun.
No. You be very careful.
You could go and notify the
I
court.
always
Yes.
just flip you on
Police
that.
will be able to
No,
find
you
it.
cannot do that.
If you tell
So
something like
when you
that.
think-
so that means if I take that back and sell it, that's grand larceny too.
Yes.
Most of this thing.
Just lie to the
It's
police.
not
Come
yours.
with-
So let's go to the last part now. How a bill
Reminds.
becomes an act. We done talk all around this all night long. Come on.
Yeah. And again,
The Bahamas Parliament consists of two chambers, the Senate and the House of Assembly. And the Governor General represents who?
Bring it on.
Why?
She can't physically be there.
She's the head of the state. Why?
Just right on the
Because
Commonwealth.
we're in the Commonwealth. All right. We wake up today. So under the Constitution, Article 52, subsection 1, Parliament is mandated to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of the Bahamas. Oh, who sucked their teeth? This article empowers Parliament to make laws by the passing of bills. So a bill, a draft proposal, is prepared by the AG's office after consultation by the government of the Bahamas. And I gave you the example of VAT. So remember they came up with the paper explaining what VAT is? Then they had town hall meetings.
Right.
That's the paper.
White people.
That's right.
Okay?
So you just carry it around and around and around.
But they let you get
Read it.
sensitized to what it's about.
Yeah.
You make whatever
Talk
comments
about
you
it,
want and talk
yeah.
about it.
You vote on it,
Exactly.
seconded, third.
Right. And it goes through the process. The bill has 4 stages and a vote is taken after each stage. Introduction of the bill. If you ever watch the Parliament channel, you'll see whichever MP is responsible for a bill, he
Yeah.
gets up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce these 4 bills under the financial sector industry. Bill number this is done to do this. Bill number that is done to do that. Then the speaker orders the bills to be printed and the bill is numbered. What? Remember now, by the time the bill gets to the introduction to the House, it's already been read and vetted by all the people who have the actual knowledge of it.
So they don't just bring out any bill.
They're not bringing any
It is
bill.
a surprise.
So when you see them bring a financial services bill or an employment bill, people in that area, not just from the Attorney General's office in that department that specialize in that, whatever private sector body is involved in that day-to-day reads that before it goes there. So they're not haphazard. So whenever you make an amendment to the financial sector bill, it goes
Through the process.
through the process. The attorneys in the actual regulatory body drafts it first. Internally in that regulatory body is passed through all of management.
So, Ms. Archer, were you a part of the attorneys that fought back and forth with the HOPA?
Who's the whole book?
The Homeowners Protection Act, that's what we call it.
No, I was already going from that. I would have been in the part when they did the consultation with the financial sector itself.
Okay.
So you understand how it works?
So
Because I know
what's,
it had to
what's
been-
the,
Let me show you.
yeah, I just gonna break down.
So the people who specialize in the area would draft the
No,
regular-
don't start like that. Let's take a financial services bill, homeowners protectors bill. So we've had a lot of criticism from all the commercial banks with all of the default,
Yeah.
right? So we, again, what I say, where does law come from? International treaty, customs, equity, constitution, what's happening in society. So this is an issue in society. We have a lot of debt.
Okay.
And the banks have already determined that a lot of debt is because we don't know what people are borrowing from all over the place. We agree? So we have an issue.
Okay.
So I put issue.
So you come up with the issue first.
Yeah, you have a problem.
How about issue?
Right. The issue can also be where there's a particular section in the act that we think need to be amended. Could be any issue. So there's an issue.
So when it's a budget issues,
Depends on what the issues are. Okay, so let's say we have the issue now with all of the debt. The Clearing Banks Association all decided this is an issue, it has to be addressed. Because this is a financial sector, other factors come into play. You have the IMF telling you what you need to do, and other international bodies. So, they say there's an issue, where do they go? Who do they go to?
To central bank,
Yes, they go to the
governor,
governor.
right?
So the governor listens to their issues, looks at the balance sheets, he sees where the defaults are rising, there's a lot. There's a cultural problem here. Where does he go? Where does he go next? Where does the governor go? No,
To the AG.
he goes to his
Attorney?
attorney,
His attorney.
his internal,
attorney.
attorney at the central bank,
Okay.
who looks at the issue.
And then they'll make the
What is
draft.
his internal,
He'll make a draft, right?
what does this internal one do?
You know,
Consult,
evaluation.
no, consult with the internal attorneys here.
CBA.
Yeah.
This group represents all of the clearing banks. So each one of those banks have an attorney. All of those attorneys will now sit to meet to discuss this issue
Yeah.
with this person,
Right.
okay? Then
That's all it's all.
they'll do a draft.
After they already come up with a solution.
Well, this is what you love meetings. You're discussing. Someone will go out and say, let's see what Trinidad has.
So they don't,
Your job would be go look see what Barbados have. You also say go look see what England has. Everybody has something. Then they come back and put it together.
So-
How do we address the problems that we have?
so these would constitute all like the board members of all the banks and stuff like that, or
Where?
the
No.
consultant?
No. Here,
Yeah.
these are all the managing directors
Oh,
Of
okay.
every
That's what it
of
means.
every bank.
Okay.
They meet with the governor
Ah.
every week.
So they made that
Every week.
issue.
Every week.
That's an opportunity.
You have to do it. Yes. You run in the country. Then the governor speaks with his attorney.
Mm-hmm.
His attorney then calls the attorneys for all of the Clearing Banks Association together, and let's draft something. This draft is then circulated. Let me put it like this. Back here,
Yeah.
right? Each member of the CBA, they can decide in their own organization who they want to share it with. It doesn't leave the institution. It cannot leave the institution. It can't go out. It can't be discussed. It's just to read only.
It doesn't go down the lottery.
No.
Stay with the MDs.
Yeah. All right? So they've said it. They've looked at it. They may make some changes to it. They send it back
Send it back.
to the consul at Central Bank.
That includes the governor too.
Mhm.
The council-
Yeah, but this consul now is in charge of this.
The council includes the governor, the attorneys.
This is the attorney,
The legal counsel.
the legal
Oh,
counsel,
Legal counsel, oh.
The legal counsel.
Oh,
Central Bank legal counsel.
Central Bank legal counsel.
the legal counsel. Okay.
Whatever comments they made, changes are made. Goes back again.
Just to the CBA.
Yeah. This is final position we look at.
And that's it after.
No.
No.
Go to the AG's office.
That's
So I'm trying to say.
And that's
So you
when-
go to the AG's office, the AG looks at it.
and then
The AG asks you, what source documents did you use? Because that's normally a part of your package.
Yeah, that's what
So
it
we
should-
would have
should be
used a little bit of
bundle.
Trinidad, a little bit
Yeah.
of this, a little bit of this. This is the comments that we got back from the CBA, and you track the changes you made, and it goes there. They then take it, and they review it. Depends on what questions they have an issue, it comes back here again.
now
More
go right back to,
It depends on whatever it is that they questions or issues they have,
and then they go back.
they go back here
And then go
again.
Oh, so
Now-
they don't have to go through the CBA no more.
No,
Depends if it's
no.
minor.
It's a minor, no. This person will communicate to them.
Oh, okay.
Because it may only just be clarification, like, why did you put this? I think you should have included this. If I look at this issue, I think you need to make it, instead of making it so prescriptive, let's leave it a little wider so we don't have to change it too soon. Things like that. So here we going back and forth here. When they say that it looks good, right?
Then they what?
No. You send it out.
To Parliament?
No. You send it out to your members.
Members being,
Like.
All the financial institutions,
Like a
publicly,
like
for
a
everybody,
circular.
yes. You
For
send
them
it
to
out
review it,
for
right?
consultation, for them to review, and for everybody to give
To
their
have
comments.
meetings,
that's the
and
time.
so
It's
that's
just-
when the meetings come in, the general meetings and,
They sometimes depends on what the legislation is, you'll have town hall meetings.
right.
Like
Okay.
let's say if the prime
So
minister wants to say this is what we're doing,
Uh-huh.
or the whoever this is relative to will share it with their management team. This is what the law is bringing out. Can I have your comments, please? Because I have to give it back to the central bank.
Yeah, I was a part of that.
Okay? After this is finished, whatever comments goes back to legal
Yeah.
at the central bank.
Straight box of people.
Again, they will look and make whatever comments, make whatever revisions if necessary, and they communicate that back to them. This is what we changed, this is what we didn't change. Then it goes from here to the AG. This is our final document. Then you have the minister responsible. I hereby table the
It's
bill.
still fine.
Well, I wonder if they did that process when it came to the Civil Aviation Act, that's a special
Civil
place
Aviation
for it.
Act has been drafted almost 15 to 20 years ago. Yes.
Would we
Yep.
just,
That's already gone through that process.
2017,
Long before that. Very long before
so
that.
then it was amended then?
They probably amended it, just tweaked it.
Oh man, because from what I understand, that's when the Civil Aviation Act came. into
They have
being.
been discussing that for years.
And it's currently being revisited, but I don't think it went through that process. Because it's very haphazard.
If you look at the Civil Aviation Act, the only persons that would involve is who?
Well, I think the AG's office drafted that.
Yes. So who are the constituents? Who are the
AG's
constituents?
Right, Chair.
No, they wouldn't just pass it without
But I-
any
but I
member
mean,
looking at it.
Ministry of
If you,
Transport.
yeah, transport have to look at it.
Okay, transport.
And whoever was sitting in the chair at that
At
time
that
in that
time.
year may have decided, I don't need y'all to read it.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So it depends on who sits in the chair at that time.
I'm
And
wondering,
if the minister at that time, if he presents the bill and the members say this is not the time for this, then it's what they call the shelf. It's put on the shelf. Until they decide that guess what we need it, they pull it back out, they dust it off, and then they amend it and they represent it again. But this is why it takes a long time. So everybody is a part of it by the time it gets out there. When whatever minister says, I present this bill. And so if there are groups like the Chamber of Commerce, depends on the legislation. If there's a Chamber of Commerce, if it's bankers, they say they have the AIPT group. You have the BFSP group. All of those little groups will meet and come up with their points and then send it back. And they all have to be reviewed and vetted and considered.
and they didn't factor everybody in that.
Where's everybody?
All the persons or the parties that would be involved. That's
But-
mentioned in the act, because there's several areas that's mentioned.
But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying now.
And they didn't
Whoever's in
consider
charge of it, here it would have been this person here. Whoever was in charge of that piece of legislation has that responsibility to disseminate that draft to all the persons it affects and get it feedback. So I may feel I don't need to communicate with you. I may feel that the person sitting in the chair at this time, in that role, don't really know nothing. What I send it to him for? Ask him out. She never here. He doesn't know I've done everything within it. So at that point in time, It's just me. You see what I'm saying? It depends.
There's so many parties involved.
Yeah, but that's
So
now.
many agencies.
But that's now.
But they were always the party, cause the convention.
Yeah, but I may not have liked this one, and this one may have had nothing to contribute.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, but that's how it is. Or I could have sent it to you and you, and I said, I want a response back by the 15th. You sent it on the 16th. I'm not including it. There's a lot of different things, why things happen. She could have been out. It could have been sent only to her. No one else got it. She could have been out and assigned it to him. He said, what you sent this to me for? No response. That's how government works, yes.
Lousy.
Unless you have the person who's responsible who's gonna go behind the people and say, I send this to you, may I have your response? I send this to you. Everybody isn't diligent like that. All right? Good. Have a great week.
Yay.
I have a question for you.
Give it a long time.
Okay.
You should be learning it on your own. Yeah. The only difference is when you do it here locally, you get the knowledge from the local judges. And from the local, yeah. That's the difference. All right, yes.
The research question is due the date of return. Okay.
On the 19th. Oh, I have some things here. Anthony, Curtis, Christopher, and Sterano. Who's Stevano?
That's me.
Anthony? Who's Anthony? You, Chris?
Yes.
You, who's Anthony? You? I thought you said she was bringing these herself. Waking me. So next week is contract law.
Okay.
I'll tell you the week before. Get started. You already know it covering 1 and 2. 3 and 4. Good night.